Hello and welcome to episode 1343 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday the 13th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, did you know we had 2 years in a row with a Friday the 13th?
I didn't know that.
We had one last year.
Don't we usually have one? Isn't that like
Do you get one every year? I don't know.
I think you get one every year.
Well, then maybe it was just that it was in the fall last year, because I remember Jen and I watching a scary movie on Friday the 13th, either in September or October. Again, maybe there is one every year, but I
guess there's a chance there wouldn't be one, but where is there? I mean, you only have 7 days in a week and you have 12 months. So I would assume you get one every year.
But why? Why would that necessarily always land on a, like, okay, let's look at the calendar for next year. Hang on. So Friday the 10th, Friday the 14th. So
yes,
Valentine's Day is on a Friday.
I just Googled it. Yes, there's at least one Friday the 13th in every calendar year.
Oh, sweet. So is there like a history of that? Next year we have one in June. Is there a history of them? Because I'm curious if last year's was in October. And maybe that's why. Oh, there's also one. There's next February too, the 26th, February 2026.
They occur every 212 days.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So kind of in line with what you were saying.
Yeah. So like you're guaranteed to get one. You might actually get two some years.
It was in October last year.
Okay. There you go.
So that's why it felt like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. One in September, one in October, in the spoopy month, if you will. And Jen's a big horror movie fan. So anyway, not that crazy then that it's Friday the 13th. I don't keep track of all of them. You're going to get one at least a year. There you go.
You learned something new. Yeah, exactly.
Something new this morning. You're also going to learn, maybe not exactly who to start for 2 starts next week, but who we think you should start. So let's get into it, because we do have a pretty robust list. And we got a lot of like in-between names on here, like guys that you feel good about starting in a lot of cases, but maybe they're on here because they've been struggling of late, or the matchups are tough, or we've just lost some confidence in them. So let's dive right in. Let's start with a couple Arizona Diamondbacks who are on this list because their matchups are tough. These are 2 guys I like, Merrill Kelly and Ryne Nelson, but Justin, they are hitting an at Colorado, at Milwaukee double dip. That is really difficult. Let's start with Kelly. I think he's the shakier of the 2. Maybe you correct me on that if you feel differently. But I think he's the shakier of the 2 between he and Nelson. Are you starting Merrill Kelly at Colorado, at Milwaukee? If so, what scenarios?
I don't think I am. I mean, outside of maybe some really sparse 15-team leagues, and obviously NL only. He hasn't been great this season. He missed a lot of the season due to injury, and the strikeout rate just doesn't warrant like enough upside on a guy like Merrill Kelly to kind of take this risk. Going to Colorado, he's a guy who allows a lot of contact. Colorado is not a place you want to allow a lot of contact.
Hits up a good bit this year for Kelly too, specifically.
Yeah, he's got an almost 90% in-zone contact rate. That, with how high your BABIPs can run in Colorado because of the large outfield and the thin air, I just don't think I would want to risk that. And then you follow up with Milwaukee, who's a high contact team. So I'm staying away from that one.
Yeah, they've been cooking everybody this year too. I am also out on this with Merrill Kelly. I just think there's too much risk, and the only real upside for me is wins, and we know how fickle those are. So if you're purely win chasing, you know your standings, right? On all of these, the caveat is your standings might dictate going against what we're saying, and that's totally fine. We're trying to give sort of a neutral stance. If you're just desperate for wins, you are betting on a good team with the Diamondbacks. The Colorado one, you're going to feel pretty good about, and the Milwaukee one's a toss-up. But for the most part, I'm not doing this. With Ryne Nelson, I'm a bit more open to it. I'm still scared because these matchups are tough, but I think I can get some strikeouts. I feel like I can get 2 wins here. And I know his season ratios are actually pretty close to Kelly's with a 4.33 ERA, and he is coming off a tough one at Houston. But I think he can survive here. I'm at least a standard deviation higher on Nelson than I am Kelly here. Am I off base, or do you like Nelson better too?
I think you should be even higher on Nelson.
Okay,
I mean,
okay. So you're way over Kelly.
yeah, in the second half, he's got a 3.39 ERA. He's got 66 strikeouts and 61 innings. Yeah, I mean these are risky matchups because of what I just talked about with Kelly, but he's a guy who gets a lot of swing and miss. We're not talking about a guy who's allowing 90% zone contact, though he is allowing a lot of contact. So maybe it is a bit riskier. Maybe it is just a slight upgrade over Kelly. But I think in a 15-team league, I think in some 12s, you're considering it, especially because you're going to be win chasing, and Nelson has been so good. I know the last start out wasn't great, but he's still been great most of the second half. So
yeah, you did since the half, since the All-Star break. I spun it back to just July. I just split the season directly in half in terms of the months, and since July 1st, 3.16 ERA, 79 Ks in 79 and 2/3 innings for Ryne Nelson with only 65 hits allowed. And yes, Houston cooked him, but even in the midst of this run, he's taken on good teams. He's gone into San Diego, into LA against the Dodgers, into KC, into Fenway, which we know has been a bit easier down the stretch here. But they haven't been hitting as well. Philly came and visited. Like, he has taken on quality teams. I feel pretty good with Nelson here. Again, some general nerves due to the matchups, but I'm with you. All 15s and a lot of 12s. I'm probably getting there. Here's a name that I don't even know if he's starting. You know, when we don't have a set starter, RotoWire and Jason Martinez over at Roster Resource, they'll fill in. They'll try to give their best guess. Here's a blast from the past, even though this guy's only 26 years old. How about Ian Anderson possibly making his season debut?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
season debut.
Hasn't pitched in the majors since 2022.
Right. That's why it's blast from the past, even though he's only 26 years old. At Cincy, at Miami. It would be a pretty appealing two-step with the at Miami and the at Cincy not being as scary this year, right? They have not lived up to the hype that we had for them. Would you get there on this Ian Anderson? Because, by the way, this is, you know, whose two-step spot this is, right?
It's Reynaldo Lopez.
Who is now on the IL, unfortunately, probably ending his regular season, which is really shitty. But what do we think here if Ian Anderson were to get this? This is very much up in the air, but in spots where you could, because you couldn't even speculate on him in the NFBC because he won't have debuted yet. But in spots where you could, is there a league deep enough or a scenario where you'd go for Ian Anderson blind?
I mean, NL only, I definitely would do it. I think it's really difficult to want to do this first start out in the majors. He has thrown 6 innings in his most recent minor league start. The thing is, he's been walking a lot of guys.
Yes.
Which doesn't make me feel really confident. Over his last 3 minor league starts, he's thrown a total of 15 innings, and he's walked 12 guys. So I don't feel very confident that he's going to come up to a major league strike zone and do any better than that. And so I just think that...
Did he face Baltimore's minor league team 3 times or something?
He did not face them at all, unfortunately.
Then I can't give him a pass for that. Then.
Yeah, no excuse there. So he's also given up 3 home runs in that 15 innings as well. So I think I'm probably passing on this in every format except for NL only. But I totally understand, like, looking at if you can just get the Miami start.
I was just about to ask that. If I could make up a scenario, he comes up 5 innings, 4 runs against Cincy. Yeah. It's kind of boring. Let's say, I'm just making up a scenario. 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Like, it's not a great outing, but it's not terrible. And you can get the Miami start in a daily league. Where would you start Ian Anderson if we saw like a modestly poor start at Cincy, but like he didn't walk a million, didn't give up homers? Would you take the 15-team shot for the Miami start? Would you go 12s? Like, where would your confidence be with a modest at Cincinnati for Ian Anderson?
I mean, I'd definitely be interested because in spite of the fact that he, he's walking a lot of guys, Miami's really, really bad. And
they're so terrible, dude.
He does have a 24% strikeout rate in AAA. So, like, you could get, 5 innings and 6 strikeouts, right? Mm-hmm. Like, And looking at the other Saturday starters, I mean, there's some decent ones. I mean, the question becomes, would you rather start a guy like Ian Anderson against Miami or Matthew Boyd versus St. Louis? I'd probably take Boyd.
I take Boyd. Yeah.
Would you take Kaider Montero versus Baltimore?
Can I see how this weekend's Baltimore start goes for him? I'm riding really high on Kaider Montero right now for the amazing start that he had, the Maddox against Baltimore. But I am biting my nails for the Baltimore start this weekend. Or Colorado. I think I said Baltimore. He diced Colorado. He gets Baltimore this weekend and then Baltimore again. If he does well in this one, I think I would take him over Ian Anderson. But right now, that is a toss-up. What about Rhett Lauder?
I think I take Lauder. Lauder's
against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's got the Pirates. I think I take Lauder there.
Yeah. So we're not diving in here. And that's a pretty uniquely created scenario there for Ian Anderson. We'll see how it goes. Best chances, I'm more inclined to like him next week after we see something, because we have to see if he even gets called up. So we won't spend any more time on that. Let's jump to Baltimore and talk some Albert Suárez. He's been great. But I don't think he's in the unquestioned tier yet. And the season's going to run out before he gets there. So I think we still need to talk about him, even though he's put up a very healthy 3.39 ERA. 129 whip comes with it, which is not great. And 95 Ks in 119 innings. So you're not getting crazy strikeouts or crazy whip. You're getting a good ERA and a strong win probability. And now you get 2 home starts against the Giants and Tigers. It's the sleeper and the bust special. And listen, my Tigers are playing pretty well lately. Your Giants are a competent team, but we don't run from either of these offenses here. So how do you feel about Suárez in the sleeper and the bust 2-step?
I don't feel great. He hasn't been as good in the second half. He got beat up by the White Sox, which is not what you want to see.
Totally fine. No one's bothered by that. I did not freak out and almost flip my desk over. No, I very calmly, casually handled that when Albert Suárez got smoked by the White Sox.
He also got smoked at Miami.
I know, Justin. He's on my team.
He in the second half he has a 137 whip. That is atrocious. So,
but you know what's funny is a lot of the damage is those 2 starts.
Yeah, it's those 2 starts really. Like, I mean, there's the other start versus Cleveland where he had a 240 whip, but other than that, like, he has been pretty good. I think in some 15s you're rolling with this. I'm not afraid of either of these offenses he's going up against, and both are at home, so like that is helpful as well. So I
got a bit more love here for Suárez. I'm all in 15s, and I'm even thinking some 12s here.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because I'm a little bit more concerned, but
the whip is tough. The whip is tough. So again, standings above everything.
And again, he doesn't strike out a ton of guys. So like,
and I think those are fair critiques. But you get the 2. So give me like 9 or 10 strikeouts on the week. A good ERA. I'll eat the 125 to 130 whip, and I'm hoping to get 2 wins. And of course, I need at least 1, but I'm hoping to get 2. So I think there's some decent upside here with Suárez.
So as always, this is all about your standings, right?
Yes.
Like you need to take it like for me in like labor, like I couldn't do this because I need to protect my whip, right? But maybe in like my main event where my whip is pretty stable and I need wins, like I could definitely do this.
So like I said, I do have him in my main event. I've got an 1189 whip, and I bring up the extra decimal there because 1188 is in front of me, and 1177 is in front of them, and 1173. Not to just keep going, but like whip is close, and then I have a 1203 behind me. I think I can take the risk with Suárez here because the wins would be huge if I got 2 of them. And ERA, I can't be hurt. I wish it was the other way around. I'm in first in ERA. I wish that was whip because then I would feel a lot more comfortable starting somebody like Suárez. But either way, I'm going for him in 15s. I'm pretty confident there. And in 12s, I feel I'm interested in 12s. Yeah. What about this guy, Nick Pivetta? We know the upside he can bring, but we know the downside. We've both tried to kick that football many times over the years. He goes to Tampa Bay and hosts Minnesota. You got to feel pretty good about those matchups there, with Minnesota banged up and Tampa Bay just being bad, offensively at least. How do we feel about Nick Pivetta here? He's got a 4.25 ERA on the season with a 114 WHIP, but also 156 strikeouts in 129 in the third innings. So, you compare him to somebody like Suárez, and you're getting vastly different things. His whip is pretty good, Pivetta's. His strikeouts are great. The win potential's lower. The ERA thresholds are lower. So, do you like him better, worse, or equal to Suárez, depending on what you need?
I mean, I think it's exactly that last part. It's depending on what you need. If you need strikeouts, go with Nick Pivetta. If you need anything else, I'm going with Suárez. So I mean, in the second half, he's got a 4.50 ERA. He's also giving up 2 homers per 9. Like he's giving up,
terrified.
He's given up 12 home runs, or sorry, 11 home runs in the second half, but only 12 walks. So like there's just a lot of volatility here, and I like the matchups. So like I'm not super worried about that. Both Tampa Bay and Minnesota have been like bottom 10 teams in the last month in terms of OPS. So
right,
like these are teams you want to attack, and I think Pivetta is one of those guys you can attack him with, but know that there is risk, especially risk to that ERA. So like I'm a little bit concerned about that, but if you need strikeouts, you need a chance to win. I think these are good win potential games, and I think you're gonna get a fair amount of strikeouts from Pivetta.
Yeah, Pivetta gives you some real nice upside potential for the risk that you're taking on. I think he's a must start in 15s, and again on the table in 12s. And I do like, it'd be nice if he and Suárez are available in a 12, because then people can really choose what they need, since those two bring really different dynamics. Jordan Wicks was somebody that definitely had some interest in coming into the season, and it just, it hasn't really worked out for him overall this year. Only 41 innings, and they haven't been great. But down the stretch here, is there anything to see? He's been back for 3 starts, starting on September 1st. The first 2 were pretty good, and then the Dodgers cooked him. But this was one of those cases, like, why would you be starting him in Dodger Stadium, right? So I really think you can kind of not hold that too much against Jordan Wicks, because most people should not have been starting that anyway. So now he gets Oakland, Washington at home. How do we feel about that? There's 4 walks in each of the last 2 starts. He survived the one against the Yankees, got cooked by the Dodgers, like I said. And then the other start was at Washington, 5 innings, 1 run, but no strikeouts. So it's been a little wobbly here for Jordan Wicks. It's definitely a deep league situation, but are you getting there in 15s anywhere for Jordan Wicks?
I don't know that I am. I think he's going to be one of the more roster or like picked up players and off of the wire in 15-team leagues. I think this is one is pretty risky. I mean, first, let's talk about the fact that he's going up against Oakland, which I think some people are like, well, it's Oakland. Oakland murders left-handed pitching. And so like, I don't know that I really want to risk a kind of unstable, low upside starter versus left-handed starter versus Oakland.
Right. I think that's a great point, by the way.
I mean, this year Oakland is, I think, I guess they've dropped a little bit. So they're 15th in OPS versus lefties, but
okay.
They have had moments, especially with a guy like Brent Rooker, who's
9th.
got like.
Sorry, that's against Rice. Sorry, I interrupted you for a bad interruption. Go ahead, keep going.
And then he goes to Washington, or no, he's home versus Washington. Now Washington has been a lot worse against left-handed pitching, but there's still a lineup that can get you. I don't know how deep he's going to be able to go in the game. He's gone. He only went 3 innings last time. That was because he's getting beat up in 5 and 5.
It's kind of a 5 and dive for Jordan Wicks right now, right?
Yeah, which is difficult when you're a guy who walks guys and like you don't have a ton of win potential in Chicago to begin with.
Right.
I think I'm staying away from this. This feels like a trap. This feels like one of those remember like a few years ago when like Austin Gomber got like
The Gombering.
Gombered,
Yeah, the Gombering.
and like
The classic Gombering.
ruined people's seasons
Yes.
towards the end of like I think 2021 or 2022. like this feels like a Gombering type situation. Like you're gonna get wicksed away.
I've been running the don't get gombered line ever since. So
Yeah.
I feel that. And I'm also here. I'm not trying to get wicksed away from a title opportunity. And that's what, yeah, you will be getting wicksed away from a title opportunity here. I agree. This is really, really scary here. I think your Hail Mary chasing maybe is the only scenario where I'd even consider this. And I still don't think I want him in those scenarios right now.
There's not enough strikeout upside. Like there's just
Exactly.
not like so like you're really win searching right here, and I just
And
don't.
they're not bringing him the way you said.
Yeah, I just don't trust Chicago to win both of these games necessarily.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% in on that, and 100% out on Jordan Wicks. I'm not 100% out on Matthew Boyd though. I'm a Boyd boy, and I'm standing tall on Matthew Boyd right now. I mean, he doesn't have enough of a sample to where we're saying like, oh, he's not even questionable. We're not going to talk about him on the show.
I'm going to argue. I mean, we should talk about him.
It's 33 innings. We had to at least bring him up. I know you're going to say like these ironclad stats, so talk about him. 2.18 ERA, 0.91 WHIP. 35 Ks in 33 innings. Matthew Boyd has looked excellent. Do you think he is an all formats start Minnesota at St. Louis?
I don't know how you don't. Like, I mean, he's been fantastic since joining that Cleveland rotation.
Yes, he has.
And you're really not afraid of either of these teams. You know, I know Minnesota is better against lefties, but like you mentioned previously, they've been really, really beat up. And St. Louis is the 28th team in Major League Baseball in OPS against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, they do nothing for me in terms of scaring.
They're atrocious. I think you could potentially get 2 wins here. I think you can get strikeouts. I'm a Boyd boy. I have been for a long time. He's had 35 strikeouts in 33 innings since his call up. He's only given up 3 home runs in that time. He's only
2
walked
were in the Bronx.
7.
Yeah, the walks have been great. 2 were in the Bronx. 1 was at the Dodgers with the home runs.
Yeah.
Just those 3 homers. They make sense. Not giving up homers at home, not giving up homers to crappy teams. We love that for Matthew Boyd.
Yeah. He's easily the top of the list.
Okay. Yeah. And like you said, with the numbers, he is kind of in that, do we even need to talk about him? But I wanted to bring him up just so people understand, like, hey, small sample, but there's a lot to like here with Matthew Boyd. He's not available in most 15s, but 12s, you're going to find some availability, and you should go pick him up. And I think even in 10s, you could feasibly run a Matthew Boyd 2-step. Now, teammate Gavin Williams, not quite as confident in him, but he's running the same 2-step. Do you find any love for him there coming off of an okay start against Tampa Bay yesterday? 5 1/3, 3 runs, 9 base runners, 5 Ks, and did take the loss. What do you think about Gavin Williams? And then I'm also curious how you feel about him going forward. But first, just next week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm feeling really confident. Minnesota is the 8th best team against right-handed pitching this year. St. Louis, for all their struggles against lefties, they are pretty competent against righties. And Williams just struggles with his control. And I don't like, I love the stuff. The stuff is really good, but he just can't harness it very well.
And we saw glimpses of that last year. Like he put up the 3.29 ERA that was appealing, but it came with a 1.26 WHIP, which was teetering there on being pretty high, especially because it was driven by the 11% walk rate. And so he had some love coming into the year, but you know, people weren't going crazy for him the way they were at Bybee. So now that you add another 65 innings on to last year's 82, we're at 147 with a 4.15 ERA and a 1.32 WHIP and a strikeout per inning. How do you feel about Gavin Williams next year? I don't think he's going to be expensive, but is he somebody that you see development in, or are the walks just going to be too much and always kind of hamper Gavin Williams?
He is not going to be very high on my ranks, in a large part because of the elbow issues that he dealt with this year. I just feel like there's a ticking time bomb. This is very much like a worse version, the diet version of Bryan Woo for me, where it's like, hey, I can see the good skills that should have me enticed, but the fact that he missed time with elbow issues scares the crap out of me to the point where I'm probably not going to draft him anywhere unless he is absolutely dirt cheap. I don't think he will be. There's always going to be people who see that stuff and really really kind of go, hey, this guy's a sleeper. I just think there's too much risk in that elbow. And maybe in a 10 or a 12, I take the risk because there is so much replacement value, and you won't have to spend so much for him.
True,
but in a 15,
but you might not have to.
Yeah, I just think there are other guys who fit that mold that probably won't have their elbow explode. So
that's the thing too with Gavin Williams. If you weren't worried about the looming elbow, you can maybe find reason to buy in on the strikeouts and the fact that Cleveland's like a decent team, but the elbow just makes you feel like those walks are going to continue with Gavin Williams. So I'm with you. I'm out next week, and I'm not really in next year as it currently stands. Something fell, and I don't know what it was.
I don't know how to help you with that.
Well, who cares? Anyway, next up is Casey Mize. This is a tough one here. At KC, at Baltimore for Casey Mize. This is another one where I'm also curious on how you feel about him next year. But let's focus on next week right now. Any love for Casey Mize?
Dude, I streamed him so many spots versus the Rockies. And he got beat up. So, like, there's, like, no chance that after getting beat up at home versus the Rockies that I'm going to use him at Kansas City and at Baltimore. Yeah, they're both good parks, but, like, those are two teams that could just put a whooping on him. I mean, he doesn't have enough upside to warrant this kind of two-star. We're talking about a guy whose strikeout rate is, 17%. I don't know that
it's even that high.
Yeah, I don't see a ton of win potential versus the Orioles and the Royals. So
shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
I'm staying away from this one.
Should they have? I don't know, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I was gonna explore it. Should they have tried to figure out a way to make sure that Skubal was getting this two-step?
Yeah,
like they went for him with the sweep yesterday, which is also very valuable to get a sweep. And you're kind of figuring you're going to get it after you win 2 and you got Skubal. They blew it late, and he wasn't himself either. He was a little bit off yesterday. The only way to do that, I guess, would have been holding him, though, right? Because he wasn't ready to go the day before. But I wonder if maybe they just should have. Because, boy, that could have been really useful to have him take the two-step at KC and at Baltimore. But instead, it's Casey Mize, and I'm obviously pretty nervous about that. I'm also not starting him. But Casey Mize, former number 1 overall, getting this time in here at the end of the year and what has been another injury-addled season. Do you have any love for Casey Mize next year? He'll eclipse 100 innings, likely, unless he explodes next week. Is that enough? Is there anything here? Like, he's going to be 28. Have we kind of moved on from Casey Mize as appealing? Was he ever appealing? I got a million questions, but anyway, do you think he's any good? I guess is the question.
I think he was appealing as a guy that, like, if the strikeouts ever showed up, we always thought like the stuff was good enough where the strikeouts could show up at some point. But I think at this point in his career, you're talking about a guy who, like you said, he's 28 or is going to be 28, coming into next season. He's thrown a career. He's going to have thrown 300, plus innings in his career, and the strikeout rate for a career is 18%. His career WHIP is 127. So, like, it's not a strikeout upside. He's a WHIP liability. Maybe he can be an asset in ERA, and the Tigers look like they're going to be a more competitive team in the future. Like, but that's still a 2-category pitcher,
right?
And 2 of the categories, 2 categories that like WHIP is an underrated category that gets overlooked. It's easy to overlook, and strikeouts are something that are really, really important. Like, you can't bank on wins necessarily. So I think that he's probably not a guy that I'm going to be interested in outside of like the deepest of leagues. NL only DCs, things like, or sorry, AL only DCs, things like that. But I don't think Casey Mize is that interesting.
Yep. I can't really push back on that because you're 100% right. Spencer Arrighetti's on here as kind of a check-in. Maybe a little bit more than that, though, right? Like we do these check-ins sometimes on guys that we feel pretty good on, but we want to see where we're at. Do we feel pretty good? Like, it's funny because his composite numbers are literally dog shit. 472, 142. Like, those are bad. There's no two ways around it. And yet, he's been one of the best pitchers over the summer since basically the Tigers smashed him for 7 earned in an inning and a third. He still has a 3.58 ERA in those 14 starts. But some bomb outs in addition to that Tigers outing are why his ERA and WHIP are so high, including a very recent trip to Cincinnati that could have gone even worse. He gave up 9 runs, but only 3 were earned. He's lucky that's the case, but it was still 3 earned in 2/3 of an inning. Thankfully, Arrighetti bounced back 6 2/3, 2 runs, 7 Ks against Oakland. Now he gets a trip to San Diego and then a home visit from the Angels. Is the Angels one enough and Arrighetti's upside enough to take on the San Diego start? Or are you sitting him anywhere? That's my question. Not are you starting him? Are you sitting Arrighetti anywhere?
I don't think I am. I mean, I know that Cincinnati start just looms really, really closely in our brain, especially because he didn't even get through a full inning. But I mean, we're
inning. Jesus.
Talking about even with that that start, he's got a 3.31 second half ERA with 65 strikeouts in 51 2/3 innings. Like,
say that again. How many? 65 and how many innings?
In 51 2/3. Like,
that's
he's
awesome.
Like, so way, you're talking about 11 strikeouts per 9 here in the second half. And I just think that the upside is so good. Houston is a really good team that's competitive right now and needs to win to keep their lead over the Mariners. So, like, this isn't a team that is going to, like, pump the brakes necessarily here over the next week. So I think that Arrighetti is probably, he's not a must start, but he is a should start.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm getting there in most spots with him. I understand maybe a little trepidation, but you got to feel pretty good, especially because he bounced back from the Cincy start too. If we were waiting for that bounce back here and you had to take the 2-step with the first start being at San Diego, I could understand a lot more fear with Arrighetti. But since we saw him rebound, I feel pretty good. Another guy I feel great about, I just kind of want to pump him up. And I will admit, I am worried that maybe Lucy and her stupid football are looming, but I'm ready to get hurt again on Reid Detmers. He gets the White Sox and then a trip to Houston. Since returning, he's thrown a pair of gems against the Dodgers and Twins with 18 Ks in 12 innings and just 4 earned runs. You know I love Detmers. I don't need to belabor the point. I'm starting him here pretty much anywhere. What say you about Reid Detmers? Are we falling for it?
You know that Reid Detmers is a Paul Sporer guy.
Correct.
When he has been awful for the vast majority of his career, but he has a late career resurgence out of nowhere. And I think this is the thing. Like, he looks like the dude that you've always wanted him to be.
Correct.
The stuff looks amazing. And he's walking a couple guys each start, but, like, he's not going crazy with the walks. He's only allowed 1 home run in these 2 starts. I'm not like 100% bought in yet, but he looks like the dude he was supposed to be for the first time.
Can I also point out very quick, for the first time what?
Pretty much in his career.
No. Since the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
Look at him through the first 4 starts of the year. Now, this was before we knew Tampa Bay wasn't very good, but he took on the AL Beast for 5 straight starts, 2 Boston, 2 Baltimore, 1 Tampa Bay. He comes out of that with a 2.12 ERA, 34 Ks in 29 2/3. And I'm thinking, it's happening. I'm the Michael Scott gif with the it's happening. Everyone running around the office freaking out because Reid Detmers as an ace is happening. I was so excited.
I remember.
Oh my God, did it go south?
Yeah.
Immediately punched in the face with Minnesota Cleveland starts where he gives up 12 earned. In fact, he goes to face the AL Central after his AL East tour. He goes Minnesota, Cleveland, KC all in a row. 5, 7, 6 earned. eats up all 5 of the good starts, but then keeps it going. St. Louis whoops him for 5 in 5 innings. Trip to Houston, 6 earned in 4 innings. Back to Cleveland, or Cleveland comes to visit him, 5 innings, 3 runs, 4 walks. Just complete meltdown. Seattle, of all teams, actually gets him, and that's when you knew he had to go down to the minors, because if Seattle's hitting you, you're not a major league pitcher, plain and simple. So 3 2/3, 5 runs. And so he leaves for 3 months. He got sent out for 3 months to work on his stuff. He's back, looks great over these last 2. Yes, there's risk because it is Reid Detmers, but coming down the stretch here, you're just not going to find, a lot of higher upside arms on the waiver wire, assuming he's still available. I'm all in here, folks. I'm diving in head first on this. I'm ready to be hurt.
Yeah, this is a really hard one because, like, there is part of me, you look at these last 2 starts and you go, I think he's back. And I watched both these starts where, like, he looked really, really good. But I also know, like, he can turn on a dime. Like, this
Right.
is...
That's the scary part.
Like, there is so much risk. Like, you even look at, like, his minor league work. Like, his last 3 starts in the minor leagues were all 6, or 7 or 8 innings where he just carved up his opponents. But the 2 previous to that were against Oakland and Seattle's AAA teams where he got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's also PCL where it's like, hey, like, stuff can happen. But, like, I think that, like, this is a high upside, high risk kind of play.
Right.
One that I'm willing to take because the upside is so great. Unlike, the Casey Mizes and the Merrill Kellys of the world, like, there is a lot of upside here in Reid Detmers, especially when you get Chicago on the docket. But you also are at Houston, and that's a little bit scary as well. I think I'm rolling with it, but there is risk.
Yep. I totally understand that Reid Detmers does bring some risk, but I think you got to go for this. Take on the Houston start. Hopefully he strikes out 32 White Sox so that no matter what happens against Houston, you're okay. We didn't expect to have to talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the 2-step list by the time September rolled around, but he's had a tumultuous season that has resulted in only 78 innings. Tumultuous from a health standpoint, not from his skills. 288, 106. So I'm not asking on skills. I'm just asking if you're confident enough in the health and that the Dodgers are going to let him pitch to start him, because he did do his first return after 86 days gone, 4 innings, 8 strikeouts, no walks, 59 pitches. Is that tune-up good enough for you to feel like Yamamoto can get to 5 in both of these starts? Are you starting him everywhere at Atlanta versus Colorado?
Yeah, I don't know how you don't start him. I mean,
I agree too. Just want to make sure.
Like, I think there is a risk that he only goes 4 innings in, each of these starts, and he doesn't qualify for a win. But there'll at least still be 4 really good innings or 8 really good innings if you combine the 2 starts. Like, I don't know how to, like, deep they let him go, but, like, I just think he's too good of a pitcher when he's on the mound that you have to use him.
Got to take the shot on Yamamoto. I agree. Just want to make sure your confidence was back there with him. Aaron Civale and Colin Rea both get Philly and Arizona at home. So Arizona is just blistering hot. Philly had a great first half. They're still an imposing offense that I don't love facing, but they've had a rough second half. There's no denying that. Civale and Ray, I think I grade them pretty similarly, so I can kind of take them together. 15s, I'm open to it for both. Ray's pitched a lot better this year, results-wise, but skills-wise, it still goes to Civale. They both have home run issues. Yeah, I think I can get there in 15s for both, but I think that's kind of the extent of it. What do you think on Civale, Ray? Do you split them? Do you have any interest?
I mean, Civale's actually been pretty good as of late.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize. I'll correct myself. Civale's ERA has now bested Ray's. And that wasn't the case for quite a while because Civale has gotten better and Ray's regressed. So take that. Oh, and there's also a 10 earned run outing that I didn't realize that ruined Ray's. Your boys ruined Ray's ERA. You know what this reminds me of? Wade Miley a few years ago was having an amazing dream season, similar to Ray, where people didn't really believe it, but you kept starting him. He had like a 9-10 earned run outing at the end of the year that totally tanked the ERA. His ERA went from 3.72 to 4.21 in one fell swoop there. But anyway, I still do value them pretty similarly. I'm a little bit higher on Civale because of his skills. Again, 15s for me. 12s, I don't think so. Do you like them in 15s?
I think 15s, you might risk it. These are two tough matchups, though. You're talking about a really hot Arizona team and a Philadelphia team that is in the midst of, trying to kind of nail down this division.
Yeah, these are scary.
And I also want to point out, like, Milwaukee's got nothing to play for right now. Like, they're in the playoffs. Like, they're not getting caught in that division when they're like 8 or 9 games up. Mm-hmm. So, like, you could definitely see, like, these like quick pulls on these guys as they start to get tune up for the wild card, or for the I don't know if they're actually going to be in the wild card, or if they're going to be.
Isn't that maybe what they're fighting for then, is to make sure that they get a top 2 seed? Let's see where they stand on that front for Milwaukee.
Yeah, they're gonna at least be.
They have to fight for that if they're gonna get it. They're the 3rd seed right now.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe their back end starts if they're if they lose any ground on Philadelphia and the Dodgers. Like, let's say Philadelphia comes in and sweeps them, then all of a sudden, like, they're not competing anymore for kind of that first round skip out type thing. So
yeah,
I'm a little bit more tepid. I think 15s you're probably rolling with both of these guys, but in 10s and 12s, I don't think I would.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think in 10s and 12s, it's just a little too risky there. Maybe a win chase, something like that. But just be careful. Just be careful here with Civale and Ray. Zebby Matthews was Zebulon, if you will. That's Zebulon's my father. He's been all right, but not at the same time, because the Toronto 9, I mean, the Toronto 9 is doing a lot of the negative work there, right? He had the 2 good starts against San Diego and St. Louis. In fact, his first 3 starts were good. Toronto dropped 9 on him.
Have not been good.
And then the KC start after that was okay. 5 innings, 4 runs. Like, it's not good. It's not good, but it's not the worst. And then the Angels got him. That's what really pissed me off. You're giving up 2 homers to the Angels. Those are their first 2 homers of the year. I'm pretty sure. Don't look that up. So anyway, when you've only got 6 starts, Justin, 9 earnings against one team's really going to impact things. I still think I'm finding room for Zebby at Cleveland, at Boston. I know that's a tough setup, but I like him. I'm hemming it on a little bit, as evidenced by my pauses here, but I think I'm starting him. What do you think about Zebby Matthews? 15s and 12s, I think I get there.
Boston is the 4th best team in OPS versus right-hand pitching, and
on the year, but lately, not as good.
I don't know why you're trying to talk yourself into Zebby Matthews. Zebby Matthews.
Zebulon.
I understand like why he's an interesting pitcher that really fits like that Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober mold of like, hey, he gives up too many home runs, but he doesn't walk guys, so he shouldn't hurt you as much as a homer prone guy normally would, and he gets strikeouts, but like he hasn't really done that much at the major league level, especially over these last 3 starts, to make you want to put him in your lineup. Like just look at what he did versus Toronto, what he did versus Kansas City. Like that can ruin your season. And I know that Cleveland and Boston aren't the strong offenses they were early on in the season, but we're still talking about teams that can get you. I'm not doing this. Like this is AL only for me. This is not. Okay. I'm not doing this in 15.
The last 3 starts, I can't really deny that they've been bad, but the first 3 were good, and that included KC and San Diego. So, again, I think I find my way to him, to Zebby Matthews in a 15. Maybe not so much in 12s. I'm gonna balk on that. You've moved me a little bit.
The problem is he doesn't go deep enough into games yet to have very much margin for error. Like he's
True. I
like
do like the
if
bullpen that he turns it over to, though. If he can get to the 5, you know,
yeah, the problem is, will he get to the 5? Like I just
that's a
don't
fair
know that he
question.
will.
That's a
And
fair
like
question.
if he doesn't, then we're talking about a guy who could potentially torch ratios but can't win a game.
He
He's
could.
got a
He,
166 whip on the year.
that is less than ideal.
Yeah,
Less
that's
than
bad.
ideal.
That's
Again,
bad.
a lot of that is the Toronto start. Not
It's
that the
all
KC and the Angel starts were great since then, but a lot of that is the KC start. So don't go so gung ho on Zebby. Justin's
yeah.
fully out. I'm in 15s, and it's on the table in 12s for me. For me, you probably won't have to though, because I think a lot of these other guys are going to be
Yeah.
available. Like I think a Matthew Boyd, a Reid Detmers, maybe even a Nick Pivetta's available in a 12, maybe even Albert Suárez. Like I think you're going to find guys in 12s where
Yeah.
you really
Just
don't have to go for Zebby. What about this
yeah.
next guy? Because I think he's got some Zebulon properties in terms of like, people want to be in on Tylor Megill. And now he's coming off a gem where he wasn't even slated to start, if I recall correctly, against Toronto, and then cooked them for 6 innings of one hit ball, 2 walks, 9 Ks in Toronto. And again, they've been playing really well lately, so that actually has a little bit of weight right now. Earlier in the year, you could have told me that he smoked Toronto. I say, yeah, of course he did. He pitched against them, but now they're actually hitting the way we would
Yeah.
expect a Toronto team to hit. But now he gets Washington and Philly coming to visit in New York. What do you think about Tylor Megill?
He's been really, really good since he got recalled over the course of his 3 starts at the end of August. He's got a 2.35 ERA and 10.5 strikeouts per 9. Has not allowed a home run in that time. He's only allowed 4 walks. Like he looks like the guy that we thought he could be at one
Mm-hmm.
point in his career. And I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries, but yeah, like I think this is. I don't want to say this is a breakout, but this could be the breakout. And we're talking about a Washington team that you're not necessarily scared of. You're a little scared of Philadelphia, but I think, both the starts are at home where he's protected by Citi Field a little bit. I think I'm rolling with this in 12s and 15s.
Yeah, I think so too. With Tylor Megill, because you got some win probability with the Mets because they're playing pretty decent ball. He is pitching well. Agree that the Philly one doesn't scare you the way it was in the first half. You respect them, but
Yeah.
to get the Washington start, I take this with Tylor Megill. I'm with you, and I do have him over Zebby.
Yeah.
Josh Estes. Who the hell's Josh Estes?
I
Joey
have no idea.
Estes. We actually talked about him yesterday on the rookie pitcher pod at the Cubs and home to the Yankees. The fact that the Yankees have to come visit him in Oakland does make me a little bit more comfortable here. He also he brings plenty of risk because he does not really miss a ton of bats. So he lives in
Yeah.
the zone to where he's going to keep the walk rate down, which should help the whip. But in turn, that elevates the ERA because of home runs. But like I said, at least New York has to come visit him in Oakland. At Cubs, home to the Yankees, Joey Estes, yay or nay?
I think it's a nay for me. Both the Cubs and the Yankees are pretty much top 10 offenses over the last 30 days. And I don't love that he has to go to Chicago. He does not pitch well on the road. Yankees
Right.
coming to uh, Oakland, and I know Aaron Judge has not been good since being on Paw Patrol.
I put
So
nothing behind that though. He,
I
he he can
know.
explode at a moment's. I
Yeah,
know it is funny with the whole Paw Patrol thing, but
yeah,
yeah, he can
the Paw
explode at a
Patrol.
moment's notice.
So, but yeah, I don't think there's enough upside to warrant the downside here on Joey Estes. So I mean, I'm sure in some 15s people aren't going to have great options, and Joey Estes is going to be one of their better options. So I get it, but to me, he's a little bit too risky, especially with that road start versus Chicago, who's been
Yeah.
hot offensively as of late.
Yeah, they've been on fire. I think they're fifth against righties in the last fourth, even in WOBA in righties against righties in the last 30 days. Yeah, I'm looking for a way out of this. Right, like you said, this could
Yeah.
be one of your better options. Try to find a way out of it because it does feel a little bit too scary. You
Mhm.
Darvish is in a bit of a check-in mode right here, and he gets the reverse Detmers. He gets the Houston start first, and then the White Sox start on the weekend. Just curious if you're good on Darvish in all formats right now. Is he back in the lineup for you?
Man, I think this is a lot riskier than it seems. Like, yes, he kind of rebounded after a tough first start, but it was at Seattle. Like, we're talking about a team that, like, you shouldn't be mediocre against.
Still 7 hits and 2 homers against him. Now, they were 2
Yeah.
solos because he didn't walk anybody, and he was definitely better than he was against my Tigers. But
I think with the Chicago on the docket, like, you've got to do it. But that
right.
Houston, this is another one of those scenarios, like, where if I'm in a daily lineups league, I'm not starting him for the Houston one. I'm shelving him. But I've got this decision in a league or two, and it's going to be really difficult for me to figure out because I picked him up off the waiver wire right before he got back from the personal list or whatever he was on. So I'm definitely entertaining it, but I think if you are ratio protecting right now, you might actually want to just skip it because that Houston start.
I can certainly see that on Darvish because Houston can really pop you, and he's not quote unquote you Darvish right now.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get to this where I'm trying to get away from the Estes start. I think I'm looking for reasons to get Darvish back in the lineup. And again, I think 15s. I doubt you have a choice. If you have a deep enough rotation that you do have a choice, good on you. But I think you kind of have to. So it's 10s and 12s that I'm mostly considering this. And like I said, I feel pretty good about it. But I do, a little bit of nerves that if I can avoid it, maybe I do. But the White Sox start just keeps calling to me. The tough part is, I mentioned how this is the reverse Detmers. You always worry when the good starts late in case something happens. Now, being that it's San Diego, weather is unlikely to happen. These are both at home. So you feel pretty good.
But it could just be like a rotation reset.
Bingo.
Like, you
that's my concern is like protecting Darvish. What if they're just like, oh, we don't need Darvish against the White Sox. What if it's not even an anti or Darvish protection thing? What if it's because they want a better opportunity against a tougher team, so they throw in Johnny 2 cents on Sunday against the White Sox and then get Darvish to start the next week against? I'm gonna actually find out who they're playing.
San Francisco. They're at San Francisco.
Okay, so that's not as much of a difficult matchup there. No, they get the Dodgers after that.
Oh shoot, yeah.
9/24, yeah, they face the Dodgers. So they could maybe do that if they wanted him in the Dodgers.
And that would give them an extra day of rest too, because they're off on
right, because they don't play Monday. So I'm just saying that's at least on the table there. It might complicate your decision a little bit. I'm going for him in the 15. I have him in my main. I'm putting Darvish in, but there could be some goofiness here. And
I'm trying to remember where I have Darvish right now.
Let me tell you this. If you need the White Sox start to make this everything, like if that's the only reason you're doing it, I'd be careful because I think there's a world where they push him to the Dodgers start to try to put them, especially if they do well. Like, let's say they like get a sweep this weekend and they take 2 or 3 from Houston, and then all of a sudden the number 1 seed or one of the top 2 seeds is back in the picture, right? Because at that point, if they're facing the Dodgers with a chance to actually overtake them in that series, I definitely think they want to go, 3 of King, Darvish, Cease, Musgrove. Now, in fairness, King, Cease, Musgrove is the current lineup, so they might just be fine with that. I'm just saying it's a possibility. I'm talking myself in circles a little bit. I am still starting Darvish. I just think it's on the table that they could move him there just because he's had health issues in addition to being out for a while.
So right?
He also got hurt too. It wasn't just the restricted list the whole time.
But I mean, it was mostly. I mean, he was hurt back in like May or something like that.
Right. That's fair.
And like the reason he didn't come back as quickly was because he was dealing with some personal issues off the field.
That's why he was out for 3 months.
Yeah, the hard part for me. So like I got him in one of my $1,500 auctions.
This is Darvish, by the way, just to reiterate on Darvish. Go ahead.
But like I really can't gain a ton of room in strikeouts or wins necessarily. I'm really just trying to
start him.
Yeah, I'm really just trying to improve my ratios, and his whip has been 140 or something like that since returning. Like I don't think I can start him. I think I'm going to drop him this week.
I think that's, if you're not starting him, I think that's fair because he gets Arizona the following week, which
or
you
gets
don't
pushed to
love.
that Dodgers
Or
start.
gets exactly.
Yeah.
If he does indeed lose the White Sox start, again, the one thing I push right back on myself on is that they do have King, Cease, Musgrove lined up, and they might feel good enough with those three. If they had Martin Perez like figured in there, then I think that Darvish scenario would be more viable. But again, they might just skip him to save him for the playoffs. So I do think that White Sox start is in some doubt for Darvish. I hope not, because I really, really want it. I've got him and Detmers on my main. I want those two White Sox starts so badly. So yeah, I'm still there in 15s for Darvish, but it's not a guaranteed. Don't even question it. I think you should question it and really assess what you can get, like you did. You can't really gain from the things that he brings, which is strikeouts and a win potential. So why even keep him? I think that's fair.
I think I'm probably dropping him.
Let's go to Robbie Ray on your boys, on your ball club. Now, he's slated to return, so we don't know here, right? So we're kind of still betting in the dark. But if he does, it's at Baltimore at KC. So are you even that excited if he does return?
Do you need strikeouts?
Right.
If you need strikeouts, I get it. Right? But that's it. Yeah, no, he's too volatile. Like, Robbie Ray is volatile anytime he goes out there. And then you add in the fact that he's a Tommy John returnee that has been struggling with command and control.
But his first start was good. That means he's back 100%. And you don't have to worry about anything, remember?
So, like, yeah.
Sorry, I'm being a little sarcastic, but like
the
overreactions to the season debut for Robbie Ray were wild. Go ahead.
The strikeouts are the only reason you're doing this.
Right.
Win potential is really low against Baltimore, Kansas City. And then the ratios are like, hey, he could go out there and absolutely dominate, right? Like, he could go out there and throw 6 no-hit innings, and walk one guy or something like that. He could also go out there and give up a crap ton of home runs and walk
and be out in 3 innings for both.
Exactly.
Okay, you can't give a standings caveat here.
Yes.
He and Robbie Ray and Casey Mize have the same matchups inverted at Baltimore at KC. And
give me the upside of Robbie Ray there.
Okay, okay.
Give me.
I just wanted to see.
At least then you got maybe my ratios get torched, but at least I'm going to get 14 strikeouts.
Right.
And
he could drop 2 gems, whereas the likelihood of Casey Mize dropping 2 gems is minuscule.
Or he could just drop 1, but the amount of strikeouts you get with that 1 is so good
is
that
enough.
It outweighs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I figured, but I just want to make sure because we do have, like I said, a couple guys here that have inverted matchups of each other, and that's whenever my brain finds patterns like that, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Andre Pallante for the San Francisco Giants gets Pittsburgh and Cleveland coming to visit him in St. Louis. Excuse me. Is that enough to draw any interest? Pallante's had some bouts of success this year. He's got a 4.13 ERA, not a bad pitcher. Very St. Louis-y, if you know what I mean by that, where it's just kind of like boring, unspectacular decentness. But 4.13, 140 on the whip, right? So that's kind of the St. Louis way. I keep saying San Francisco. That's the St. Louis way. Like, give up a bunch of base runners, but get out of it. Pallante's been able to do that. Do you like the 25-year-old at all here with Pittsburgh and Cleveland coming to visit?
You know what is really interesting to me on Pallante?
I do know. Can I guess?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
That his home numbers suck.
Oh no, I was actually
okay. I thought I got you on that one. Go ahead.
No, but that is actually true. Is it weird to you that you've never seen Andre Pallante and Kyle Gibson pitch on the same day?
Well, no, because why would they use 2 starters? But they are
the same guy.
Correct, they are.
So if you're asking me, do I want to start Andre Pallante? Do you want to start Kyle Gibson? I don't think
that's always a yes. When is that ever a no?
I mean, he would technically be like a young Kyle Gibson.
That's what I'm saying. He's just baby Gibson over here.
Yeah, I mean, the strikeouts aren't great. So you don't have a lot of strikeout upside. Like you mentioned, he's been pretty bad at home. These are decent matchups, so I understand maybe trying to win seek a little bit here,
right? But trying to chase.
He's only had 6 wins on the season. Do we really think he's gonna And it's not like the Cardinals are very good.
True.
I wonder who
But these
he's. I
these
wonder
are
who's
bad teams, like offensively, at least in the last 30 days against righties. Pittsburgh's 24th, Cleveland's 26th. So I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm not like super in
Okay.
on Pallante here, but like there's a chance that this is D's.
I will kind of go back and say one of these two starts is a matchup against Paul Skeens.
Oh well, he ain't winning that one.
Yeah, so he's not winning that one. He is matched up against Gavin Williams on the back end.
Okay.
So maybe he sneaks that one. But now you're talking about guys not going to give you many strikeouts. Maybe gives you a win.
Yeah. No thanks with
Like
Pallante.
no thanks. Yeah.
And that
Sorry,
whip,
Kyle Gibson. Yeah,
Kyle
that
Gibson.
whip,
We still
that
love
whip.
you. You're the best. Shane Baz, again, might be more of like just taking your temperature as opposed because I don't know how available he is. People liked him. I was always a check-in 2025 with Shane Baz with the volatility, but he has stabilized here down the stretch and given people some high-quality innings. Is he an automatic for you? The last 5 starts for Shane Baz, he's got a 2.32 ERA with 24 Ks in 31 innings. Also has 12 walks, so it's just a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk. Boston and Toronto coming to visit him in Tampa Bay. How do you feel about Shane Baz?
I mean, it's been really good in the second half.
And look at who
Yeah.
he's. Sorry to interrupt you right after I asked you a question, but in those 5 starts, Houston, San Diego, Baltimore, Philly, and Oakland, a team that we say like don't gloss over them. So 4 really good opponents and a 5th like capable opponent that he's mowing down here, Shane Baz.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of a must start right now. Like
I think so too, and I was pretty negative on him. So, again,
the crazy thing is the strikeouts have not been even that great. But like, he doesn't give. He's only given up 5 home runs in the second half. The walks can be a problem at times, but he doesn't get hurt by him too much because he doesn't allow a lot of hard contact. I think Baz is kind of in that must start tier right now,
and really hasn't dealt with too much of the returning volatility, the TJ returning volatility. So
he has with the control a little bit, like right. He's
the standard, which we always expect that from somebody returning from TJ. But the results, like he's as you mentioned, he hasn't been burned by it. Like even the 5-walk game at the Yankees, he didn't give up any runs. He put 9 runners on in 3 1/3 and did not give up a single run. They got him out before the real damage came.
He's really difficult to square up. He owes in the second half. He's only allowed a 4% barrel rate.
Wow. Yeah. But Baz, again, still love him long term. I just thought there'd be ups and downs this year. It has not happened. He has been good. He has been stable. You really hope the TJ volatility doesn't come down the stretch here. I agree. I'm starting him everywhere. I'm not starting Chris Bassitt everywhere. In fact, I'll go so far as to say I'm not starting that son of a gun anywhere. That dude is a whip destroyer at Texas, at Tampa Bay. Doesn't even scare you that much, but the 141 whip sure as hell does. What's up with Bassitt? You going for him anywhere?
I think
roadie.
I think that the age has finally just caught up to him.
Right,
and
I think so too. By the way,
I think if he was, I think if he didn't have another year of that contract on the docket, he'd probably be cut by now by Toronto. So he's been really, really bad in the second half. Now, what I will say though, is he's actually been pretty decent on the road. He's got a 3.65 road ERA this year.
Okay.
So like,
it's gotta be like what high 4s at home then for the 440.
Oh
for
no,
the 420 composite ERA.
Oh yeah, no, 4.58. I was actually
okay.
I saw his second half ERA, which is 5.50.
It's the hits have just been endless with Bassitt. The hit rate is at 9.4, his highest since like before he broke out back back in 2016 when he only threw 28 innings. So this is just not what we've seen out of Bassitt. You mentioned that he's 35, so maybe the age is just catching up.
Yeah.
At the same time, it sounds like maybe you might do this though because he's been better on the road. Texas and Tampa Bay aren't terrible.
If I'm win seeking right now, I mean Tampa Bay is not good offensively since they made the trades that they've made, and Texas has not been good offensively either
all year.
Yeah,
all year, like they've been disappointing.
And they just ruled Corey Seager out for the rest of the season.
Right.
Like, I if I'm win seeking, I could see myself doing this. this.
I think so
The problem
too.
is, I think you just risk your ratios especially your whip getting torched.
Absolutely.
So
And if that kills you, again, folks,
this
down the
is
stretch
just
here,
standings.
you're trying to bring home these titles, you got to do the math, which means go in, get your innings total, get how many runners you've allowed, and do the math of like what would 10 base runners in 4 innings do to you if Chris Bassitt
Yeah.
does that. If that costs you 3 points
Give
in whip
give
because
yourself
you're
11 innings and a 140 whip in from
and
those
see what
11 innings
happens.
and see what happens, because
Yeah.
I think that's going to determine what you do here.
I think you really got to run some of these little exercises here to and not just kind of, you know, mentally just be like, oh, I can withstand it. No,
Yeah.
actually see what the numbers do and see if you can actually take that on or not. So yeah, I'd be very careful here, but I'm not 100% out. I will say
Yeah.
that. Like if
Like
I'm
I said,
set
if I'm win singing, I think I'm going for it.
if I'm set in whip, I can't go up, can't go down really that much. I might go for that. All right, our last guy, Swervin Jake Irvin. We've talked a lot of nice stuff about him this year, but at no point has he really graduated to the we don't have to question his 2 steps. We still got to be making sure that we want to start him, and he's had a rougher second half as we expected. I certainly didn't anticipate that he would hold like a sub 3 ERA all year, and of course he hasn't. But still pretty good after 2 crummy starts in a row against the Cubs and Pittsburgh, which was really tough because you wanted to start him in Pittsburgh there, and he gives up 6. But he bounced back with 6 innings, 1 run against Atlanta. He goes to the Mets and to the Cubs. Is Swervin Jake Irvin getting in the lineup this week? And if so, where? What format?
We just talked about the Cubs and how hot their offense is right now, right?
Right.
Like,
and the Mets have been,
and the Mets have
they're
again,
good too.
Yeah, they've been another one of these teams that, like they're the 8th best team in OPS over the last 30 days. So you're facing the Cubs, who've been 5th in OPS over the last 30 days. You're facing the Mets, who've been 8th. No thanks for Swervin Jake Irvin. He can swerve his way to the waiver wire.
He can swerve his way to the waiver wire because he just doesn't miss enough bats. I like him. I was really excited about him during his big run. But right now, I think there is too much risk. And we saw what the Cubs did to him 2 starts ago. 4 2/3, 7 earned. And so drawing them again, it does scare me a little bit. I know I've cited the data a million times that when you face a team twice in a row, and this isn't twice in a row. So my bottom line, though, is I'm not saying because he did poorly against them previously, Jake Irvin will again. It just makes me nervous. So I think there's too much risk here and not nearly enough upside. He does have 10 wins, though. So good on him for getting 10 dubs this year.
Yeah.
But this does not have like win upside. So there you go. It's an really intriguing 2-star board next week. There's going to be a lot of guys available in different league formats. This guy isn't a 2-step, but he is set to return next week. And I'm only bringing him up because we're finishing on the Nats here. And you talked about how great he was for you this year. Trevor Williams, are you potentially sneaking him off the wire this week at like $1 or $2 to try to start him? I will tell you this. He gets the aforementioned Cubs.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And then Philly the week after that. So it's not a great pair of starts.
The thing about Trevor Williams is he was really, really great for me, but he was on my bench for a lot of it. So
that's right.
I don't think I'm risking it here. So
don't tempt fate there. Like, oh, I missed the good starts. Let me try to get them back. Nope.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would not do that.
There's just not enough strikeout upside.
Right.
To warrant this. So yeah, he had 25 innings on my bench with a 180 ERA.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's brutal.
Are you and Jason doing a Fab episode this weekend?
I believe we're going to. We recorded last week, so I think we're going to try. The Fab episodes will be a little bit lighter, kind of rest the way, just because there's just not much Fab yet to do. But we've only got 2 more weeks of Fab, and then it's over, right? Like that's it.
We're trying to help out. Our audience definitely shrinks as we get to the finish line. I totally get that, but we're trying to help out the folks that are still chasing those money spots and those titles. I'm even putting up a weekend SP chart this weekend for y'all. And, got to do your best here. Whatever money you got left, take your shots, be confident, and hopefully we can get some good numbers going. But this is a fun 2-step board. I really think there's a lot of opportunity out there. Hopefully you don't need any major duds. Do you have a favorite there? I can't remember who I think Boyd was probably our overall favorite.
I mean, Yamamoto, if he,
Oh,
I
Yamamoto,
can't
but he's
imagine
on
he's
the
available.
yeah, he's off to the side there. That was really
Yeah.
a check-in. Of the guys who could be available, I think somebody like Boyd, Arrighetti if he got cut,
Boyd,
Detmers.
Arrighetti, Detmers, for sure. Then Megill.
Megill, yeah. And I think Suárez will have some availability. And at home against San Francisco and Detroit, definitely appeals to me in shallow leagues.
Pivetta could be available.
Pivetta will have some shallow league eligibility too, or availability rather. Yeah, so opportunities abound. Good luck to everybody. Justin, I will talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Take it easy.